everybody. Welcome to the PowerCast live with you every Tuesday night, just after 5, with Eric Vasquez on the far left and a very special guest, Ms. Jennifer Crowley from Real G Insurance. And today, as of today, it's just been changed to Anywhere Insurance.
Yes, name change today.
Anywhere, because anywhere you are, you're going to be.
Anywhere in your process of home buying and car buying, we can help with your insurance.
Amen.
There you go.
So before we get started, we have lots of people watching us today. We are live on Jennifer's Facebook page. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Instagram. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. We are live on lots of different apps. We have Google, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can always catch us. By the way, go to YouTube if you haven't caught us there yet or haven't joined us. Please go to our YouTube channel. Go to Team Powerhouse Real Estate. Hit subscribe. Every week you can watch us or watch us on the replay. We're a Saturday going to have a special edition of this show. Very cool stuff. And then you can also listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and hold on, there's so much more. Forgot my list.
You forgot the sheet.
But that being said, we are everywhere that our people want us to be, and then some. And if there's any time out there you see a place that we should be, let us know. We'll make it happen. So today with Jennifer Crowley from Anywhere Insurance.
You had to look again.
We're going to make sure that I don't only mess things up, but we're going to have a little trivia game. So if you're out there and you're watching and you think you know the answer, I'd love to hear from you. Last week had a great crowd when we did a Valentine's Day special with Valentine's Day questions. We had Jamie Franco in the hot seat over here, and it was a lot of fun. So if you're out there, you're watching, you're listening, and you think you know the answers to the questions, we'd love to hear from you. Have some fun with us with trivia questions on insurance. Now, Jennifer, 17 years in the insurance business.
Yes.
You've seen a lot.
Yes.
The amount of changes that have happened in the last 17 years, I know in real estate has been catastrophically crazy, right? In the mortgage industry, absolutely bananas. I mean, from an insurance standpoint, there must be so many more new laws, regulations, things that you can and can't do, I'm guessing. Anything comes to mind like that was like some of the things that have happened over the last few years before we get started in this trivia that you'd say to yourself like, wow, that was...
Like what's new?
Yeah, like
what's like the newest thing that was like you never thought would kick in and did?
Well, and that's the thing. So I'm an independent insurance agent, right?
Independent.
So I don't work for any particular insurance company. I come in to take the stress off of the home buyers and the people out there when they're shopping for insurance, and I do all of that shopping. So I have to figure out what company wants what, who's going to charge the best rate for the best prices and things. So over the years, there's been changes to mandatory deductibles, especially like along the coastline in Connecticut.
Right.
There's been companies that have stopped writing new business. They have stopped taking on, certain value homes in certain areas.
Interesting.
Certain vehicles, we just got a notification from a company yesterday, Kias and Hyundais. There's, national news that there are being higher thefts happening. People can easily break into and steal. So there's some companies that are no longer willing to insure these vehicles because of the chances of theft.
A Kia and a Hyundai is easier to steal than another car because of...
There was some TikTok thing that went around, I think, showing you how to
What's up with that TikTok?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, actually. TikTok has become a place where we learn a lot of information. Actually, Sunday I was on TikTok flipping through, and all of a sudden someone had the Indy 500 who was actually there. I'm sorry, the Daytona 500. Sorry, correction. They did, and I was like, oh my God, the race is on. And I popped the race on TV because I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's amazing what kind of information is coming through all these different social media platforms. That being said, that's crazy. The Hyundai and Kia.
But think about it. If they're at a higher risk for theft, then that means these insurance companies that are currently insuring them are paying out, sometimes 3 times more than originally expected. So they have to start making decisions to change things. So when they make a stance or a change on what they're willing to insure or how much or what they're going to charge for a premium, it's because they have to look at what are we paying out, what are things actually costing, and we need to have money to pay for everybody's claims if something goes wrong.
Yeah, but didn't they, like the top stolen cars, I think traditionally for like the last 10 years has always been like Toyota Celica or whatever
Some
it was.
Hondas, right?
So, right?
Right.
So did they do that with them?
I don't know if I've never heard of them not insuring those. Like I have some companies that they won't insure a car over $100,000, right?
Really?
You have to go to like a higher end insurance company, or like some of the Teslas when they first came out because you couldn't get replacement parts. So if the car's damaged and you can't get the replacement parts, they're not. How long are they paying for a rental car or something like that because the replacement parts aren't available? So there's many different reasons why they change their underwriting guidelines.
That's very
Interesting about the Tesla. I know somebody that drove one recently, and there's no brakes on the car.
What?
There's no brakes.
There's no brakes in the car?
You take your foot off the gas to slow down.
Really?
The car knows to stop itself.
I'm not sure if I trust that. Sorry. I'm not okay.
There's no brake pedal on the car.
I would be stepping through the floor.
There's no brake pedal on the car, so
Yeah.
we'll have to look into that. We have an agent in the office that owns a Tesla, so we can find that
Yeah.
out.
We'll
Why
have
not?
to
Take it for a test drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it for a test ride, not me. No thanks.
All right, so we have some questions that Jennifer set up for us here for today's trivia, and I'm hoping you guys are watching. Jonathan, you're going to keep an eye on, hopefully, I know for sure on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, we got you guys covered over there. Hopefully, I don't know if people are watching right now. Jonathan, just do me a favor, take a gander at the TikTok. I'm just curious how many people are watching on TikTok as we speak.
And whatever it is, add 30.
30, yeah, exactly. I'm just curious how many right now we have going live over there. All right, beautiful. So with that
31.
being said,
31.
we're going to see what's going on our social media platforms and how people have a chance to respond. Last week we had some great feedback from people. So let's see if anybody's paying attention and watching the show.
This is an important subject. Folks are going to learn some stuff
Yeah.
today.
Last time we ran out of
Sure.
time, so thanks for having me back for a second. Second go.
Absolutely. All right, so talk to us about some trivia questions. And who's going to go first before we start?
Well, it's to both of us, but
Oh,
we'll see
okay.
who can answer it and who can't, whatever.
That's a good idea. All right.
All right, so
Should we be keeping tally this time?
No.
are we gonna have a winner?
No.
Oh, okay.
I could.
I'm not very competitive.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I got a bunch of random questions. I'm going to
All
go
right.
in no necessary
Okay.
order, but
Okay.
we were talking about cars earlier today. So, what does ACV mean on my car insurance?
Wow.
My car's covered for ACV. What does that mean?
Apple, Charlie,
I'm going to say
ACV.
accident, collision, something with the V.
Value.
Value, something like that.
We were just talking about this in the other room.
Accident, collision, that's actually a good one. But value me for V?
So, actual cash value.
Actual cash value. Okay.
Right?
So we got the first one wrong. Did you
We
know
got
what
that.
ACV meant? And do you have ACV on your actual insurance? Does everybody have
So,
ACV?
So
auto
explain what
insurance-
ACV is.
Auto insurance is usually replaced on ACV, which is actual cash value. So when your vehicle gets into an accident, the value at the time of loss is what they're going to settle the repairs for.
Wow.
So it's not what you paid for it a month earlier.
Not what you paid for it. No,
So you drive a car off
depreciation
the
is
lot and
taken
let's
into
say
account.
depreciation
Yep.
is, oh, wow, okay.
Not to mention, if you bought a car in the last 2 years, let's say with the market of cars were insane, now that market in value is that. I'm going through
Okay.
a situation, but we'll talk about that later.
So ACV, so
ACV.
it takes into account depreciation. So if you have a brand new car that you bought and you're financing it and it depreciates immediately, you may owe more than the car is actually worth.
Yeah.
So there's
Wow.
something you can look into called gap coverage
Yep,
on your
gap
car,
coverage.
right? So
I've
that'll
heard of
cover
that.
the difference.
Now, is that on a purchase only, or is that on a lease?
Some leases include it in the lease, so you have to check the lease language. But if your vehicle has any type of lien holder, you can look into getting the gap coverage.
How much more
on the
expensive is
vehicle.
gap insurance, would you say, to
Oh
have
my
in your
gosh,
car?
I've seen it be $25 for the year.
Really? $25 for the year.
It
Worth
depends
it.
on the company, but
Sounds like it's worth it.
Always ask.
It sounds like it's worth it. Sounds like it should be automatically included. You put on it without question.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are being very cheap with their insurance. Don't be cheap on insurance. Trust me, it's not in a healthy situation to be cheap. Right, Facebook?
Okay.
And if anybody's out there any questions for us, of course,
Yeah,
we're always there
we'll
for
ask those.
answers. And yeah.
Here's a good one for home insurance.
Home insurance question. Let's see what
My
we got.
neighbor's tree falls on my house. Who covers the damage? The neighbor, because it's their tree, or me, because it's my house?
I say it's me.
So if your neighbor's tree falls on your house, it's your problem.
Why?
The answer I don't like, period, because I think it's crap if it's your neighbor's tree, personally. But I know this to be a fact that if your neighbor's tree falls in your house, you're screwed. I mean, realistically, I mean, like, what, how does that explain that to me? Yeah.
So say we're neighbors.
Yeah.
And your tree falls and damages my house or my fence or something like that.
Right.
Did you put the tree there? Did you do it on purpose?
I didn't, but what if the tree was in bad condition and I should have cut the limbs off, or maybe...
So there is something, if you can prove negligence, which I've heard is very hard to do with an attorney and written things saying you were aware and did nothing, potentially. But in the grand scheme of things, you didn't put it there. So it's not your fault. Like,
But
you're not
here's the-
responsible for
But
it.
here's the problem. Let's say you're the neighbor who's the house it fell on top of, and you want to cut that tree down, and they say no.
Well, yeah, then you're going to have to go into getting litigation.
Right? So because you were willing to pay for the
Yeah.
tree to be cut down, the neighbor, me,
Because I
says-
can't go cut your tree down. It's
'Cause
not
I'm not-
mine.
'cause
I
I'm a-
can't do things off my property.
Right. So, but you won't cut the tree down, and now we have a problem because it fell on your house, or you have a problem because I'm a jackass. I'm a neighbor.
So technically, where the tree falls, that policy will cover the damage for that house. So if his tree falls on my house, I'm putting a claim into my insurance to fix my house.
Does
He's putting a claim into his insurance to fix his house.
Does your insurance have a position where it says, "Oh, you didn't take that part of the insurance policy," or is that automatically for sure if you have homeowners insurance and it
Most
falls on yours?
homeowners insurance will cover the tree.
Okay. That's good
Damage
know.
to the house. There is a limitation
Of course there is.
in the cost to remove the tree from the property.
Because it could be like a 200-foot tree.
Right, right. So check your policy for that too. After we had tornadoes come through Connecticut a couple years
Oh, yeah.
ago, right?
Microburst,
There
yeah.
was massive tree damage.
Looked like
Hamden.
ISIS
Yep.
and Al Qaeda did a number on Hamden over there.
Sleeping Giant, that was the park that
Right.
kinda
Yep.
got, like the trees got chopped off. So if you have a bunch of trees that fall in your yard and hit nothing,
Right.
there's no coverage on your home insurance because we don't cover the grass, we cover the house. So thank God the tree fell and didn't hit my house.
But now
You're completely out of pocket to get that tree removed, cut up, and
which is
disposed of.
thousands of dollars.
Right.
Or you buy a chainsaw.
Or you
That's what I did.
do the manual labor yourself.
That's what I did.
Right. Well, I mean, if
I borrowed
Yeah.
a chainsaw.
And if it falls and like hits your fence or hits your house, you pay your deductible for your policy. They come out and fix your fence and fix your house, and there might be $500 or $1,000. There's a per tree limit to remove the tree. So
Wow.
you still might have some out of pocket coverage to get that tree out of your way.
that's a
once
great
it's done.
question.
Interesting.
Great question.
Speaking of trees, here's a good one. So if my tree, so no question about the neighbor being nasty, right? My tree falls on my house and damages my car that's parked inside my garage.
So it hits the house.
Hits the house, smashes the garage, and my car's inside of it. What policy pays for my car? What policy pays for the house? Does the house pay for everything? Where do I go to make my claim?
Wow. Well, I would hope that
So, well, hold on. I have a question. Did you plant the tree?
No. No. Tree was there.
Did you intend on the tree to
Nope.
fall down? Okay,
Nope.
good. We
The
got
tree
those
fell.
first two questions out of the way. Okay.
so.
So if you have car insurance under one company and homeowners insurance under a different, Okay.
Interesting.
then
Do they fight with each other?
then I would imagine they would.
Do you see
So-
your homeowner's policy to cover for the car damage and this car
So
damage?
if the car is in the garage, it might be included as part of the house, and that the car is outside of the garage, it may be considered just a car. So like the car insurance will apply if it's outside the garage, and the homeowner's insurance on the inside. What do you say?
I think you're what they call in French, F-U, and I'll finish it like that. I think that what happens is the car's not covered. I think that that's your SOL. And the car insurance company might say, you're not covering it because we're going to go after your homeowner's insurance policy, is my guess.
Okay, so you're both wrong. So
That's good. I'm happy to hear
So here's the thing. The house insurance will fix the house. So you had an interesting part though. Say you had your auto with Geico and you had your home with Travelers. Just throwing names out there. If you have this particular scenario, you have to call your auto insurance, pay your auto insurance deductible if you have comprehensive coverage on your vehicle, right? So there are people that only have liability and they don't have physical damage coverage on their car.
Right.
So first you have to have the comprehensive coverage on your vehicle. So you could have $100 deductible, $250, $500, $1,000, right? So you pay your deductible, you call your car insurance, they will fix your car. Now you have to also fix the house. So you now have to call a different company in some cases. And what is your homeowner's deductible? That could be $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000. You pay that deductible and you file a claim with your home insurance to rebuild the house. So your car is never covered by home insurance regardless. And it is only covered by your car insurance if you have
So I was
physical
kind
damage.
of right then. Because I said you're screwed because your cars are covered.
It is covered.
But it's not. 'Cause
It is
It's not
covered by
covered.
your car insurance.
if
But
you
whatever
have-
insurance
If
you
you
have
have
on the
physical
car, it's
damage
covered.
coverage.
Wait, no. If you have,
Comprehensive.
Comprehensive.
but if you don't have comprehensive,
Right. So sometimes when, and that's another question I have on here.
which by the way, I'm going to just say this in my opinion. I think when you have car insurance,
Yep.
you should not be allowed to not have comprehensive insurance and own a car. Because that is the kind of insurance that is protecting you as the motor vehicle driver or the other person who you hit, right? And that was comprehensive.
No.
part.
That's liability.
That's liability. So, and I looked it up today just to confirm. The state of Connecticut, which we're in Connecticut today. The state of Connecticut minimum to have a license plate, you have to have liability insurance. So if he's driving and hits me, he has to have a minimum of $25,000 per person,
Which is nothing.
$50,000 per accident. So if he hits a car that you and I are in, he's got 25 per each of us, right?
nothing.
If the three of us are in the same car, we can't get 25 per person if he
That's-
only has 50 total because there's three people
I
in there.
think personally they should raise that number. It should 25,000 is a joke. It should be 100,000 because of God forbids, and it should never be anything less than that. I think that it's insane that you would go rent a car. You basically have more insurance with a rent a
Buy a
car.
car and get on the road.
Yeah, you're buying a car. You have a legalized weapon, right? And you don't carry insurance for God forbid situations. In my opinion, you shouldn't be able to buy a car. That's my opinion.
So.
You can see what you think about. What
Well,
do you
good
think
thing.
about that?
Good thing they don't listen to you.
I
so
know.
bad.
So that's the state minimum. So
Yeah.
every state has different minimums, and that's for you to have a car registered. Now, if you do have a loan,
Go ahead.
right? So you didn't pay cash for your vehicle.
Right.
Chase is financing it, for example.
Right.
Chase will have a requirement that you need to carry maybe the 100, 300 limit.
Right.
So the person giving you the money, same thing like a mortgage, you're buying
Right.
a house, they have requirements for you to carry.
So what you're saying to me basically is if you're buying it cash, you buy some little beater for a couple
Mm-hmm.
$100,000, that you can have garbage insurance on it, basically. And then typically those are people who cause accidents, unfortunately. I'm totally calling you out. And I say this, I'm just joking. And my point is that God forbid it happens, and now you're basically no insurance cover for the people who get hurt. And then they have to go through their insurance, if
Yeah.
they have decent insurance, and sue their own insurance to get help.
Yeah.
No, because they can still go after you civilly. Even if you don't have
Yeah.
the insurance,
Yeah.
they can still go after you
So
civilly
you're
for
saying
any.
to me somebody who bought a car for $2,500 is going to have something to offer?
Some people also have the assets where they want to self-insure, right? So they can just buy themselves another car if they want to. So the option in the state is whether or not you want to cover your vehicle itself for damage, so comprehensive collision, right? I can choose to say, hey, if my car gets damaged, I'm not going to fix it. I'll just go buy another car.
I'm so upset about this whole thing personally because I've just been through a couple of situations personally, and I think that you have to understand that God forbid you get into an accident out there, whether it be a child or an adult, and you don't have insurance that's proper, and that happens to be something very bad,
Yeah.
you're going to have to live the rest of your life with what you did to somebody, and on top of that, you didn't have the insurance to take care of that person and their family. And that's not right. That's why I say it to you.
So, and here's, like, I will get a referral for somebody buying their first home, right?
Yep.
And say they were renting before, or they were living in their parents' house and now they're out on their own for the first time. I will always say, let's look at your auto and home together. Because one, you might be able to save, this was one of my questions, so I'll give you the answer, but you could save sometimes 20-30% if you bundle your auto and home together.
We talk about that with clients all the time. We always say, make sure you ask about bundling your insurance.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that before, or if you don't bundle, or if you don't have the same insurance agent
Yeah.
to speak to, you really want to consider
Independent insurance.
You know, it's a very good point. An independent insurance agent is a much more important person to speak with, in my opinion, because they're not lined up with one insurance company necessarily.
Well, and that's the thing. Like every client I talk to, one, because I've been in an auto accident, because I've had a home claim, because I've been a jury for a car accident case, I have different opinions about the coverage that you should carry, right?
Right.
Because I've seen it play out when you don't have the right coverage in multiple ways.
Right.
So when I have discussions with my clients, they'll call me and say, this is what I have, can you give me a cheaper price? And I want to see what you have. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I have full coverage. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Right?
Right. What is full coverage?
What does full coverage mean? And like in Dave's point of view, you have, this is one of my questions, but you could get hit by somebody driving a Mercedes. That means nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't mean that they're responsible with the insurance that they have. So we really want to make sure that
It's
when
not a
you're-
knock on Mercedes drivers.
Yeah, but you think by looking at the vehicle you can assume the coverage, and you can't.
That's right.
You cannot, and
You hope and pray no matter what the
you
person
hope and
is.
pray they have insurance if they're at fault.
So let's go to the question, because we jumped off subject to
Yeah.
this question. So that was a question you were going to ask us about bundling insurance. What can you say about bundling insurance?
Yeah. So I already gave that. So 20 to 30%, and we've already talked about it. If the tree falls and you're putting a claim in with one company and another company, you would be paying, sometimes only one deductible if you had the same company. You're dealing with one claims team if you're, putting in a claim for your auto and your home separately. So there's other reasons, even if it's not a monetary savings, that you might want to be with one company if you can.
All right. What's the
If
next
you can.
What's
If
it?
you can. What does it mean when I say I have full coverage on my auto insurance? Because clients will call me all the time and say, I have full coverage. Okay. What does that mean?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you'd have to really know insurance set out in order to know what full coverage is. And I think that in answering your question, my guess it's going to be minimum of insurance of, casualty and what are the names it can call? There's casualty and there's.
Well, there's collision, there's
Collision,
liability, there's
liability.
casualty,
So let's just say.
and
that-
then you have the comprehensive. So I would imagine, let's say it's packaging all four, or whatever dabbling in each one of the categories.
Great question, by the way. I wonder if any of you guys out there know the answer to these questions, because we're real estate agents helping with clients and talk about insurance a little bit every day. Do any of you guys know what Jennifer's talking about? Do you have questions out there? Is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you know answers? I'd love to know from you guys if you have any questions or answers to these questions we're asking.
Let's see what the answer is.
So honestly, when somebody says I have full coverage or I want a quote for full coverage, it means nothing to me, because what they're coming at me with is completely different every time. Full coverage means you have liability, but do you have the state minimum? Do you have 25/50? Do you have 50/100? Do you have 100/300? Do you have 250/500? Right? So just because you have liability doesn't mean you have good liability. So that's one thing. I would typically think it meant you had physical damage coverage on your car, which means you do have comprehensive and collision.
Right.
But do you have rental car coverage? Do you have roadside service? Do you have, like trip interruption? Like if you break down and you're traveling in Pennsylvania, is there something that's going to give you maybe a hotel to stay in because you're so many miles from home? Like
Wow.
there are packages that you can get with your auto insurance based on your needs that you might want and care about, where, hey, I don't drive long distance for work, so I don't care about trip interruption.
That's
I work
fair.
from home, right?
That's
so
fair.
I don't want to pay more for that. That's not really a benefit to me.
But if you're a person who's on the road a lot with work,
Yep.
that might be something to consider asking. I never heard that
Yeah.
before. Trip
Yeah.
interruption insurance. Interesting.
So some companies will have a benefit for that.
Huh.
What part of the policy, since we're talking about auto still, if my car is stolen, which part, liability, comprehensive, or collision, will repair or replace my vehicle if it's stolen?
I'm gonna guess liability. Just a guess.
Just with the term liability, it suggests that it's not liability. So if you only have liability insurance on the car and the car gets stolen, you're not getting anything. That's my belief.
Right? That's true.
So I'm gonna say comprehensive probably.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
job, Eric.
Good job. So think about liability.
Not that we're keeping
means-
score, but that's 1-0.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
After like 5 questions, we only got 1 score. So
Still 1.
liability means you're liable. You're responsible for doing harm or damage to somebody else. So I hit you. I'm liable to fix your car, fix your body if you get injured, right? Comprehensive and collision is what fixes your own vehicle. So think of collision, colliding, having an accident. Comprehensive is anything other than an accident. So that could be a tree
Stolen
falling,
or a car stolen.
theft, vandalism,
Comprehensive.
somebody keying your car in a parking lot, something like that.
Oh, wait, that's covered also?
That's comprehensive.
Let me ask you a question. I heard this once before, and this is a question that you all need to know the answer to. You call your insurance, now with you it's going to be different because you're their friend. When they call you to ask a question, you're not the actual insurance company. Like if you were going to call Travelers directly.
You're calling a claim, you mean?
If you called like Travelers Insurance, which is a great company, and you were to ask them a question about a speeding ticket or some kind of a problem, is it true that they automatically zing your insurance and cut a mark right there because you asked that question?
So, not necessarily, but you're never going to get a black and white answer for a claims question unless a claim is started and there's a claim number and there's like an adjuster to go out and actually see what happened. So once a claim number is started, then it looks like an inquiry of some sort.
But if you just inquire a question about a speeding ticket, because I've heard people say to me that if you ask your insurance agent, not like Jennifer Crowley insurance agent, but if you call up Geico or you call up Progressive,
They
and
have
you
to
ask,
run the motor vehicle report to get speeding
so they don't
tickets.
write down the notes over there. Eric called up asking about a speeding ticket.
So if you tell them, my daughter just had a speeding ticket, what are my rates going to do? Then they would probably rerun the motor vehicle reports to see what else is on there. Yeah. And once it's run, it's run. Like those tickets. And that's the thing, like they don't always run motor vehicle reports at every single renewal, or they don't get an immediate notification like, hey, David just got a speeding ticket. Here's the report. But they can run it every time they renew. And sometimes people would be like, that speeding ticket was 2 years ago. Why are my rates going up now? It could be that they just found out about it, especially if you didn't call and report it. So every time you get a renewal on your auto or your home or any insurance policy, it'll say on that policy packet, like, please review and let us know if anything's changed. So they're giving you a new offer for a rate based on what they know. If there's something different or something that you're omitting or something you forgot to tell them, your rate could be invalid, right?
Interesting.
So you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence as the policy holder, that the insurance company knows what's going on for the risk that they're covering. Because if something goes wrong, you don't
Yes.
want them to turn around and say, had we known, we wouldn't have covered you.
Right.
Get
of
it on the
course.
table and find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Next question. Trivia question.
All right, let's go to home.
Home. Home insurance.
Can I have a trampoline at my house?
No. Well, you can, but you can't. No. The answer is you cannot have a trampoline at your home based on your homeowner's policy. Is that correct? Actually, Eric, what do you think?
So I'm gonna say that you can, but you're gonna pay through the nose to have that in your insurance policy.
So you can, and some insurance companies just won't choose to insure you. Okay?
It's
Yes.
like, it's very similar to like having a particular breed of dog that you won't be
Yes.
able to get a policy for.
So,
Yes.
what you're saying is, I'm correct that you cannot have a trampoline with most insurance companies, but then you go to a high-end insurance company. to
So
pay a
here's the thing.
premium.
Say I start with 10
Wrong.
companies,
Yes.
right? I start with 10 companies to get rates with. You tell me you have a
Trampoline.
German Shepherd dog.
Good dog, by the way.
I love German Shepherds. If you have a German Shepherd dog, I might be down to 6 companies that are willing to still insure you.
And a German Shepherd?
Yep.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm. That's a
then
great
you
dog.
tell me,
But that's an aggressive dog.
and then you tell me
Gosh dang it.
that you have an in-ground swimming pool that's fenced in, but you have a 6-foot slide that goes with it. or a diving board. My 6 companies might be now down to 3.
Interesting.
Then you tell me you also have a trampoline. My follow-up question is it netted? Is it above ground, or sometimes they're set in the ground now? Yes, it's netted. Yes, it's fenced in. My 3 companies might be down to 1.
Wow.
So when you go through these different layers of things at the home, it's not that I'm charging you more but the cheaper options may no longer be available. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So everybody will insure you if you don't have these fun things, but as you start adding liability risks.
Is German Shepherd really one of those dogs, by the way?
German Shepherds are on some of the insurance companies' free list.
Yeah, I've never heard about a German Shepherd
Yeah.
being an aggressive dog ever. Personally.
Shepherds,
very smart.
Rottweilers, Dobermans, Pit Bulls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Akitas, Huskies, but also a Chihuahua that has a bite history. It's not just the aggressive breed.
I'm kind
but-
of surprised personally that the small breed dogs don't have a higher insurance policy than this, because those are the ones always biting everybody.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but they can only bite you on the ankle. So.
Well, it depends how close you are to their face, because they
And
jump.
when they look at dog bite claims, they are hefty payouts. They're not cheap, small
Yeah.
claims. So think about getting bit in the face,
Right, surgery,
Right.
surgeries, plastic
medical,
surgeries,
psychological damage.
forever disfigurement. Those are very large.
Very interesting
claims.
point.
So the answer to that question is you can,
You can have a trampoline, but
and you can be insured for it,
you need to disclose it and make sure your insurance company wants
which
to
is what I
still
said. So
insure
that's
you.
2.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Oh, we already.
But
talked
nobody's
about
keeping
pets,
score.
2 Eric, 0 David. Okay.
Trampoline, pets. What else? Swimming pool. We already mentioned. Gosh, we're running right through.
I really
these.
thought you couldn't have a trampoline.
Oh.
No, you
How
couldn't
do you
have a
choose? How do I choose my deductible for my homeowner's insurance? So you could choose $1,000 deductible, $2,500, or $5,000. Why would you choose one over the other? How would you make that decision?
I would. Okay, actually, Eric, you want to go first on this one?
I have to process it because I'm trying to remember back to what it was that
I would guess.
what led me to make the decision I made.
So I'm gonna guess based on number one, how many kids you maybe have, what age groups, how often you have people at your house. Because if you're somebody who entertains a lot, you probably want a better coverage for your house. If you're somebody who doesn't, maybe that you'd want what.
So what's the deductible?
So I think that the isn't it the smaller the deductible? There was some sort of
Yeah.
difference
You're
between
close.
yeah. So like the smaller the deductible, the different type of coverage and payments that you have to make later on or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember the specifics, but I do know that if you pay a smaller deductible, right, then
Your payment's gonna be.
your payments are going to be different. Yeah. So I can't remember the specifics.
Okay.
The deductible
So-
is how much money they don't cover you for initially.
The deductible, okay, I have damage to my home. I have to pay my deductible before the insurance company starts paying
That
to
means
fix it.
your insurance was cheaper.
So the higher your deductible, the lower they charge you, because that means you're willing to pay more up front
Right.
when you need
So
to call
your
them
so
to
your
fix things.
so your payments are lower.
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So the higher your deductible, the lower your payments. But
That's what it was. Yes.
the thing that you want to think about is, and I usually give at least $1,000 or $2,500 deductible to every average homeowner. When we get into the multi-millions, we're looking at maybe $5,000. I've seen $7,500. So it depends on what your financial status is and what you're willing to pay. You want to consider, in the event that there's damage to my home. Now think about this. You're not paying a deductible every year. It's not an automatic expense that you have to pay, right? You're
Right.
paying it
When it happens.
if there's damage,
It's event specific.
when it
Yeah.
happens
Right.
at the time. So it's a surprise and it's like an emergency. So in the
Right.
event of an emergency, how comfortable are you coming up with 2,500 versus 1,000?
Right.
If
Right.
you can comfortably come up with both, then I would say let's entertain looking at the $2,500 deductible and see. Are you going to save $25 a year? Don't do it. Are you going
Right.
to save $300 a year? We might want to consider that. So first question is, are you comfortable paying it in the event of an emergency? When I first bought my house, I tell people this all the time. I had no money. Like we were gonna walk out of the deal because the guy was gonna give his washer and dryer to his daughter. I'm like, wait, that was coming with the house. Like I couldn't afford to buy my own washer and
Right,
dryer
right.
because I was buying this house.
Right.
I couldn't have afforded a $2,500 deductible at that time. Like it was not an option. So I have this discussion with the clients to see what is comfortable for you. You want to go as high as you're comfortable with to lower your premiums, but you still have to be able to pay it tomorrow. God forbid something happens. Only had to pay $1,000. So in the grand scheme of that, it's like, gosh, fix my house. Like,
Right.
I would have paid $5,000 if you fixed my house.
Right. Good point.
So it's when the claims are small, like the damage value is small. That's when it really hurts. Like, you know, now I'm paying $2,500 and the damage is really only $3,000. Do I
Right.
even bother at that point? There are some insurance companies, and check your policies out there. Like I know a couple of companies we work with. If the damage is over, say $50,000, they waive your deductible. So that's a great idea to take a higher deductible, save on your premiums, because you're really only risking it if you have a small dollar claim.
Right.
If it's a massive claim, you're not gonna have to pay it anyway. So
Interesting.
that's all things you can talk to your agent about and see what your options are.
These are great questions, by the way.
Yes.
Well, I have two of my own.
Good. Go
But
ahead.
I don't know if they're necessarily trivia questions, but
Yeah, go ahead.
they're questions that probably most people would probably ask, whatever.
What is that question?
Well, one of them is, so you're driving your own car, you're insured, okay, but you're intoxicated,
Oh,
okay? Does that insurance still apply
that's
with
a
your
great-
negligence of drinking and driving? Yeah, you have an accident or whatever, something happens?
You know, I don't have a claims license,
Mhm.
and I honestly don't know if your liability would not pay out because of negligence. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
It's a good
What do
question.
you know?
I would say that you are praying that whoever you
I'm stumped.
hit.
Somebody needs to comment the answer to that.
So
Somebody likes to see
did you
things.
hit like a wall or did you hit a person?
I didn't hit anything. It was a hypothetical.
Hypothetically, you're just
Wasn't
driving and you made it home
Wasn't
correctly.
Well, you have an accident, you know?
Like
I mean,
what kind of-
I don't
Yeah,
want
but
to
you're saying
paint,
because
I don't
I'm
want to paint
impaired.
an extreme photo,
Okay,
you
God
know,
forbid. So you
but
just hit a curb and your tire blew.
could be anything, yeah.
Okay.
You hit a parked car. You hit the house backing into the driveway,
Ah,
you know?
Yeah.
Dylan, by the way, just kidding.
Yeah, I'm going to get an answer to that for
That's
you.
a great question. What's the second question?
I forgot what it was. You guys talk.
That was a good
I'm
one.
trying to remember what the heck it was.
I'm going to write that one down because honestly, I don't know. And I'm not licensed in claims, so I don't want to say yes or no because it could depend on your attorney as well.
What's very important to know is that you have a great person over here to ask questions, to know that she's here for you. And if she doesn't know the answer, guess what? She's going to say,
I'll
I
find
don't
out.
know.
I
I'll
will
find
find
out.
out. I learn something new every day. I'm 43 years old, and every day, it's funny, towards the end of the day, I'm like, oh, it's like 6 o'clock. I didn't think I was going to learn something
Not
new
a
today.
day over 29, dear Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. All right, so home insurance. What does ordinance or law cover? Do you know what that is? That's not on your typical, I want
is
to
what
quote
now?
for ordinance or law.
Ordinance or law?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
ordinance is now it's making noise. It's a noise ordinance.
No, I think, well, ordinance is, I think an ordinance is a local municipality's kind of policy or rule, and a law is something passed by the state or federal.
Wow, going deep on the answer over here.
Would that be
Okay.
relatively accurate?
So in my home insurance, if I have ordinance or law coverage, what does that do for me? So you're right on guidelines and kind of like
But
rules
now talking about insurance specifically.
for my house.
Ordinance and law. How about if you had a party at your house and you had too many people there making a loud noise? Is that an ordinance?
No.
Or
That would be a
That would be a
violation of
violation
of a
of
noise
noise
ordinance
yeah, that's what I'm
for the
thinking.
town, right?
Could that be a possibility? In that is that part of
So
that?
let's think about you're selling a house to somebody, and it was, I'll use my house as an example. It was last updated in the 80s, right?
Okay.
And you have a claim today that damages the house.
Oh,
So now the insurance company has to come in and rebuild the house.
either rebuilding it back like the '80s or back like today's new updated
Right.
yada yada yada.
Right.
That's
So a contractor cannot rebuild it back to the 80s because of the building codes and the ordinances that are in place today.
Interesting. Wow.
Right? So this happened in my house when the kitchen got destroyed. So I did not have enough GFCI grounded outlets along the countertop because it was done in the 80s. And in 2015, that was a new ordinance. So any contractor coming in, once you got down to the studs in my kitchen, you had to put in the correct electric.
which made now the insurance was covering it or not covering it.
My ordinance or law covered that additional upgrade to the electric because they had to build it back that way.
Interesting.
And I saw a quote today that somebody emailed me to say, hey, this rate looks lower, can you see the difference? And it said ordinance or law declined.
Wow.
My immediate response was, you do not want to decline this. You have to get at least 10%. We want you to have even 25%,
Right.
but by declined and it not being a major coverage that you're looking at when you get your quotes, you might not notice what it is.
It's funny you mention that. I tell our clients all the time, when it comes to getting your homeowner's insurance, get good insurance. It's the most important financial asset you own. You want to make sure you cover that house up and down, left and right. God forbid. Because it's like taking your stock and letting it on fire and then not being able to rebuild or fix your property. And the cost of insurance for homes from one level to another might be a difference of a couple $100 a year, maybe. Am I right? Am I wrong? I mean, is it significantly that much different? It depends on the size of the house, of course, parameters.
There's so many rating variables, but what I tell when I'm shopping, I'll say, let's narrow down the company first. So
Right.
I'm getting quotes based on the same thing. Give me $500,000 for the rebuild. Give me, $500,000 for liability. Give me this deductible. Once they line themselves up with who's going to be most competitive with pricing, then we'll dig into that company and say, okay, now what are our options? Do we want to take a higher deductible? Do we want to increase this coverage or
Right.
that coverage? Like, if you're doing so many variables and still trying to get rates by the 10 companies, that you'd be spinning all day. Which leads me to this question too. How much should I insure my home for? This is going to be multiple choice to
Oh,
make
good.
it easy.
I like multiple choice.
So how much should I insure my home for? The purchase price, assuming we're buying a house from these guys, right? So the purchase price that I've agreed to, the mortgage amount, like the balance of the loan I'm taking out, or the replacement value for the house.
C. And I'm going to say to you one more thing. Oh, Eric, please.
Well, I mean, what if you bought high and sold low?
That's a good point. Better to have more, I guess, fixer-upper money there than less. So to answer your question, Eric, like, for example, the market went up crazy in the last 2 years. So the insurance to replace that house because of the values that have gone up so high must mean that the insurance went up higher, I'm guessing, because the cost of the properties were worth more money, technically speaking. Or is that incorrect? Because maybe the property was dated inside. So even though it was dated inside, but the value of the house was more based on the purchase price. I'm guessing based on purchase price. So
I'm gonna go purchase price.
yeah, purchase price, right?
No,
Replacement value, isn't it?
replacement value.
What did I say in the beginning?
Replacement
Yeah,
value.
well, that's-
you
but-
talked yourself out of the
No,
answer.
well, but
No, but it makes sense because if if you bought your house in 2007 or 2008,
Right,
and something happened to the house in 2009 or 2010,
right,
you lost a ton of money.
right.
Ton of money. So, but if you
So-
bought a house 5 years ago and you sold it, or something happened to it 3 years ago, or 2 years ago with the market that we had 2 years ago or last year, you made out like a fat cat.
right.
And that's the thing that a lot of people have trouble not understanding is, I'm paying this much for it. I'm only borrowing this much for it. Why do you want to insure it for that amount? And sometimes, it'll vary a lot. So when we do an insurance replacement cost, we're taking into effect, like, let's say there's a fire. Before you can even rebuild, you have all of that debris removal cost. You have to get all of that damaged material out of there. So sometimes it's not a total loss, right? How many dumpsters and pounds of debris have to get out? You have permits from the contractors coming in. You have rebuild cost lumber. Look what lumber did in the
Right.
last couple of years.
Right, right.
So we're looking at not only putting you back to whole, but then while your house is being rebuilt, your policy is paying for you to live in a hotel because you can't live here if it was just ruined in a fire,
Right.
right? We have to replace not only the structure of the house, but now we have to give you all your clothes again, your living room set, your bedroom set, your dining room set. So all of these things are part of your home policy. And that first number, when you're getting your quotes, it's coverage a dwelling. That should always be the current replacement cost for what it's going to cost to rebuild your home today as is. Not what you want to do to it in 5 years. Not, I had a quote 3 years ago. I want to shop around. Give me what I have because that value
Will
could
they
change
replace
too.
the liquor cabinet?
And all the liquor in it. Personal property.
Interesting point you make. So if you bought a house, let's say 10 years ago, and the market's gone up and doubled your value of your house. So the insurance policy you have, and the house doubles in value, is that insurance policy going to pay for that
So you want to
$200,000 home that's
check.
now worth $400,000?
Yeah. Most policies will have like an inflation protection. So if you do nothing, your policy coverage increases every year by like a flat percentage. So what we've seen in the last couple of years is the lumber materials went up, the contractor rates went up, all of these things went up where that flat percentage, it didn't go up enough, right? So some people were underinsured. So you want to check your replacement costs every, I would say 2-3 years at most. Like
Which
don't let it
means-
go farther than
So
that.
basically, when you call up, your insurance plan is going to go higher, but you're covering your house, and
You
God
want to
forbid,
make sure
based
the
on the market.
coverage is right. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's, most people out there probably would never want to call their insurance agent up and say, hey, I know the market's up and I don't pay a lot for insurance. I think I need to check my insurance policy to make sure I'm covered in God forbid situations.
So everybody says, why open the can of worms?
Right.
They say that to me all the time. And I'm like, bust that can open, get everything on the table, because if something goes wrong, I don't want to be told at that point that I didn't have enough.
Right.
Right? So you could be happy as a clam because you're paying $1,000 in premium instead of $1,300. But if they're not going to rebuild your home, what good is it?
Right.
What good is it? The
Well,
policy's not good.
shouldn't the insurance companies be responsible, in my opinion, if they see something that going on in the market that we've had to send a letter out?
They do.
to-
So yes, they will make adjustments and changes so that when you get your renewal, that replacement cost can be adjusted. Like the companies are doing this all the time. We're changing our replacement evaluation and things. And you'll get that notification during your renewal, and that'll be your time to review it and see, what else needs to be changed. But again, every time you get your renewal, it'll say on there, this is what we have. If anything's incorrect, you need to call us. And that's your signal to say, hey, you
Right.
don't have my 16-year-old driver listed here.
Oh, yeah.
So I did
Yeah.
remember my question. Wow, you're driving me nuts. So as I understand it, so my house, let's say.
Yep.
Okay? I move into the house. I do not know what the previous history is
Right.
with the people that were living in that house, right?
Mhm.
So I come in, something happens to the house, I call the insurance company. And let's say the previous owner had just made claims for like the smallest, stupid things, repeatedly. That person has now moved on. The history of the claims stays with the house, correct? And not with them, so they moved to Florida.
Yeah, but when you go to buy that house and you call up, let's say, Jennifer for insurance, she's going to see all those claims that that
Yeah.
house had.
No, correct. But that would suggest to an insurance company, this house has problems because things happen to it, right? Whether it's environmental damages or weather damages or whatever, it's in a bad location, yada, yada. Trees coming down all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That person moves to Florida. That person, that history does not follow them. So they buy a
Yes.
house down in Florida, right?
It does follow them.
It does follow them.
So it stays with the house and it follows the person.
Oh, so it does go
Yes.
to both.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
how does it follow a person when there's a complete different house they're buying? So
so all of that is taken into
I think
consideration.
it's behavior.
Yes.
Ah.
It's behavior.
So
It's like this person's just gonna file no matter what.
they look at what they call the frequency of claims, how often, how many within the look
The
back
frequent
period,
flyer.
right? Yeah, the frequent flyer. So how many claims, but they also look at the severity of the claim. What did it pay out? Was it a $500 claim? Was it a $50,000 claim? And then what caused it? Was it a catastrophe like a tornado or a hurricane where it was really weather related? Or did they have 3 water claims because their appliances kept overflowing, right? So like what is causing the damage? And when someone's buying that house and the house had the problems, again, every insurance company's underwriting team looks at it differently. Some will say, no thank you, there's too many repetitive claims, too many of the same type at this house, we don't want to pay the next one, please put this somewhere else.
yeah, we've seen that happen before. That's a problem for that new buyer that buying that house, even though there's nothing wrong with it. They have a stigma on that house.
And that's why it is so important when your buyers are looking for insurance, they should be doing it when they're getting their home inspection.
We always tell people
Yes.
that whenever, even after their home inspection, at that point, in the beginning stages of buying a house, you want to get your insurance agent on the phone. You want to call her up. You want to say, "Hey, I'm looking to buy this house here," because the lender needs that information,
Yeah.
and that's going to play a role into what your payment per month is.
Yep, exactly.
So you definitely want to know what your insurance is going to be buying a house. we kind of running along, and we've got so. Let's go with one more trivia question before we end the show. One more, a good one.
Let's go with the one I want the answer to.
Yeah, go ahead. You pick one.
The one where it says if I loan my car to my friend.
Will my policy cover me if I let my friend drive my car?
So if I'm driving Dave's BMW
Yep.
Yes.
and I have an accident in it. Okay.
Will your
So it's the
insurance
type.
cover you?
It's the type. I have to say. I'm going
Mine-
to say it has to be with the type of insurance. that's
Right.
on the
It
car.
depends on my kind. I would definitely agree with you. It depends on what kind of insurance I would have. Depends on whether he's covered and anybody else who he hit, God forbid, or whatever you damage you done.
So the liability is going to follow the vehicle, and the important part is, did he have permission to drive, or did he steal it?
No.
Right.
Initially, yes, until I crashed it. Then it became no.
Yeah.
So that's
did
what he's
he
going
have
to tell the
permission
police.
drive?
I didn't tell him he could take the car.
But
I don't even know this guy.
the other thing is, and this comes up a lot, especially with teen drivers.
Yes.
If I give my son permission to drive my car, I'm covered. Why do I need to list him on my policy, right?
But isn't there a family
So
thing on there where
The
you can?
question is, every time I'm doing an auto insurance quote, the question is, are all of the licensed household members listed on this quote? Yes or no? So I have to ask, like, are you the only licensed? We have a husband, a spouse, you have a 16-year-old. Is your 16-year-old licensed or permitted? Some companies want everybody listed, and then we put insured elsewhere, has a permit, not licensed. Like, we put that they live there because they have access to the vehicle. It's right outside. But then we also have to put what their deal is. Are they licensed, or, you know, maybe they have their own separate policy. They might want a copy of that policy.
Interesting.
But when you say, no, I don't have a licensed driver in the house, and then you give permission to your licensed daughter to take your car and she crashes it, that insurance company could turn around and say, I'm not covering it because you didn't disclose that driver. So you think you're saving money by omitting some things, and I advise strongly against that. You want to make sure you're paying the right rate for the risk that you're giving the insurance company, right? You want them to pay the damages when something goes wrong.
God forbid.
And everybody's going to pay a different price for it depending on what you're at risk for.
Yes, yes. Jennifer, you are a world of knowledge.
I'm going to come back next week.
Listen, we're going to have you back on the show because there's so much more to talk about. We have a spring market coming on the market.
We didn't even go over umbrella.
No,
Yeah.
We
Or
did nothing
flood.
on umbrella. So.
we literally have the spring
Next
market.
time.
The spring market is coming out now, and the market is getting hotter and hotter, and more people are buying. We definitely have to have you back on the show with more questions to make sure people understand. And we're going to have you, the viewers out there, sending us questions in to have them prepared
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
This way, when you head back on the show, we can answer those questions for you as well. You were awesome. We
Thank you
appreciate you
for
so
having
much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we go to the next part of the show.
wheel.
The
Spin the wheel.
wheel of winning a tumbler. Who is going to be our next
Wheel
winner?
of Tumbler.
Thank you for my new tumbler today.
You're welcome.
Yannette Gonzalez.
Yannette Gonzalez, congratulations on winning a brand new tumbler, non-used. We're very excited to get it out to you. Please make sure you reach out to us. Where was she coming from? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook?
All right, so
No
you're
knowledge.
not gonna get it
If you don't,
if you don't reach out.
Yannette Gonzalez, I love it. That's beautiful. We look forward to speaking with you. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our show. We appreciate having you guys on. If you missed this show, watch it on the replay, as you're going to see later on. Share it with your friends and family. The information you heard here today is priceless because this is the kind of stuff that actually will help save and change your lives in your future. Thank you so much for joining us again every week.
You forgot something. I won 2-0.
Eric 2, Dave 0.
He had one, and then he changed his answer, right?
I don't even think I
you
realized
did
that.
it.
I didn't even realize because the whole way. Well, anyway, it was good. Good stuff.